Hello, Cool9 here, another topic of the week for Christmas month of 2016. And again, we're talking more about Zelda. This week's topic was actually about my favorite game in the Decline timeline. It was submitted by Tumblr Anon. Their topic is, what is your favorite Zelda game from the Decline timeline? What makes it so good? Favorite character from that game? Favorite boss fight from that game? Favorite item from that game? Favorite dungeon from that game? Favorite memory you have from playing that game? So, I have to say, hands down, my favorite game that I've played from the Decline or Downfall timeline, depending on what source you're looking at, has to be A Link Between Worlds. The most recent game that takes place in the Decline timeline. Now, I'll talk about what makes it so good after I talked about some of the other things. My favorite character from that game. Now, and I will tell you, there will be spoilers for A Link Between Worlds, so just warning you, heads up, because I'll be talking through spoilers throughout this. Because I do highly recommend playing that game. It's great. My favorite game has to be, or my favorite character in the game has to be Ravio. I honestly didn't really expect that. Ravio and Hilda are my two favorite characters, really. And spoiler alert, you find out that Ravio is actually Link's counterpart in Lorule. Now, I actually had that spoiled to me long before I finished the game, but he has this great reveal at the end of the game where he, because he wears that big stupid hat all the time, and he takes the hat off and it looks like he's just like Link with purple hair, and it's like, oh, and you find out the reason that, he helps Link is because he's too cowardly to actually do this stuff himself. So all he did was provide him with weapons because he was too cowardly to actually stop the plans that were going on. And Hilda actually was actually much more an interesting character than I thought she was going to be. Because you think she's just going to be, she's just a Zelda clone, right? She's just a Zelda of an alternate, world, the mirror world of Lorule. You find out that no, she's actually kind of Dark Zelda. She actually does pull off some villainous acts at the end. I know that she's been kind of involved in it, like, oh. But then you realize that that the reason that she did that is because out of desperation for her kingdom. And it really makes you wonder, this is basically a Zelda pushed to the brink of sanity of, just to save her kingdom. And she was willing to do things that were basically could have doomed other people, but, to save her own kingdom. And, oh, wow, that was so much more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I also really liked Ravio and the fact that he actually sold you items. And this is actually something I'll talk about. I'll talk about the rest of that a little bit later. Favorite boss fight from that game. I don't particularly have a lot of remember the boss fights so much. A lot of them weren't exactly memorable characters. The one I remember most distinctly is the boss fight against Yuga Ganon. After Yuga and Ganon merge and you fight that. I don't particularly remember it being a super difficult boss battle, but I really enjoyed that, especially as the final boss. There was some that I remembered, and some of them were very similar to boss fights in A Link to the Past, though not nearly as difficult, thank goodness. But yeah, it's kind of hard, since I played it a couple years ago, it's kind of hard to remember all the boss fights. I'd have to replay A Link Between Worlds, but as far as my favorite dungeon is, I really remember enjoying the Ice Ruins. It's like, I binged on this game and got it done really quickly, so a lot of the dungeons just kind of merged together in my head. But I distinctly remember the Ice Ruins and all the ice stuff in that. For some reason, just ice, levels always are more memorable to me. Don't know why. I always remember those distinctly in games. Yeah, but all the dungeons in this game are good and, just honestly really, really enjoyable. And also the fact that you can tackle them in pretty much any order you want is also a plus. Though sometimes you do need some items to get to certain places. And my favorite item in the game There actually are a lot of interesting items. There's some new items like the tornado rod that aren't like super helpful in all circumstances. They're designed. They're like some other weapons like the spinner in Twilight Princess, where they're designed to do one thing. And sure, you could use them in other situations, but for the most part, they're only useful in their designated places. I mean, you could go and use them to stun enemies, but it's not really. It's really definitely not a combat weapon. I really enjoyed the sand rod as an interesting item, which again does also kind of isn't totally useful, but it still has. I still had some fun with that. Of course, the hook shot, having the old style hook shot, that was fun again. I like that, especially using it in combat. I liked using it as a quick getaway item, where you turn and you hook shot into like a tree or something, and an enemy's coming in, you go. Psh. I also like the fire rod. Fire rod might be my favorite, just like going. Satisfying my inner pyromaniac. Though it seems I can also do that in Breath of the Wild as well. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting items. Oh, I do love the fact that they brought the Pegasus boots back from Link to the Past. It was one of my favorite things to do in A Link to the Past is playing. It's just charging, just like charge, especially when you're like trying to get to a place quickly and you memorized if I stand here and charge, then I can basically go uninterrupted for like 3 squares. Then I move over and go. Bah. It's also great to do it in enemies, just like charging through enemies. There are a lot of fun items in this game. Favorite memory you have of that game? My favorite memory of it has to be the revelation that Hilda wasn't, good. Ultimately, she wasn't evil. She's definitely plays the role of an anti-villain. But when she came out and basically revealed that she was orchestrating events behind the scenes, and I was like, because you totally don't expect that, especially a counterpart to Zelda, and even Midna is a counterpart to Zelda, and and she is by far the victim of the situation in Twilight Princess when Ganondorf gave Zant power to take over and usurp her throne. But I don't really think we don't really see that. We don't see a character who's basically Zelda who's actually bad. And when that came out, I was playing it on my 3DS. I was like, and honestly, it was really sad. But honestly, though, right after that, when Link and Zelda used the Triforce to restore Lorule to solve their problems, that was also that might be my hands down favorite moment of the game. Like that just cheerful, satisfying ending was. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Now, what makes it so good? Now, one of the things I love about this game by far is the fact that it's just like A Link to the Past, but updated. You have 3D models, but it's done in such the style. You have similar weapons, but you have similar layouts of Hyrule. When having played Link to the Past, I was like, I know where everything is. For the most part, it's been a while since I played Link to the Past. But that same style done in an updated format, I thought this is how to do this is how you update that. You have all the same, you have a lot of similar items, you have a lot of similar stuff. So if you've played A Link to the Past, you'll be instantly familiar with a lot of stuff from A Link Between Worlds, because it is definitely meant to be something of a sequel to that. But ow, sorry. One of the things I really loved about the game is that you can tackle the dungeons in any order, and I did like the fact that you did need certain items for certain dungeons, like you absolutely were required to use them, but you didn't get those items in the dungeon. since it's designed where you can enter a lot of them in different orders, you couldn't have a progression like you could in like Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess. You actually get all your items from Rabio, and he acts as basically the shopkeeper of the game, and you can either rent or buy items from him, and that was an interesting idea. Though I honestly grinded rupees and bought all the items pretty much near the beginning of the game, so I never actually had to worry about what item I had or losing my items. Yeah, because I didn't want to bother with that. I'm like, nope, I'm gonna grind the hell out of this, and so I don't have to worry about it later. And that did help. I was never want for a weapon or an item to progress. But it was an interesting idea, and I think I'd like to see that come back at some point in the Zelda series to be to maybe actually do give you some limitations, since if you were dedicated, you can get all those items by the first dungeon if you really, really wanted to. But I would like to see some limitation on that, so you actually have to work to get those certain items, because you do that in some other games, Zelda games, where you actually have to unlock certain requirements to get certain weapons and items. And though in A Link Between Worlds, you do get all those little baby things. I don't remember what they were called. They're like little octopus things. And you collect a bunch of those, you end up getting your items upgraded, which is nice. I like that. I spent a lot of time finding those darn little things. But yeah, this is it's a solid Zelda game. I wouldn't put it as like my absolute favorites, but it's still a fantastic game. Like if you're a Zelda fan and you haven't played A Link Between Worlds, I highly recommend you play it, especially if you're a fan of A Link to the Past, because it is just like that game. Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's about it. Link Between Worlds was a surprisingly really good game, and I really liked it. Though I'll have to see. It might have if Breath of the Wild is actually going to take place in the decline/downfall timeline. Might have some serious competition in that. But yeah. So if you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. If you want to submit a topic, just comment below on YouTube and just ask me what topic you want me to talk about, or if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and put topic, and then whatever you want me to talk about. Just make sure that you follow the rules down below and it asks about something fictional. And if you want more specifics, just read the rules. And if you're not sure if I actually know about something enough to do a topic on it, don't worry, just ask me about it and I'll tell you if I know. Well, that's about it, and thank you for watching.